Well, an absolutely brutal performance by the Toronto Blue Jays once again. And on top of that, you have Louis Varland getting snubbed from the reliever of the month. A lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network, your team every day.
As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5 Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well on our main Twitter account, at Locked On Jays. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got a lot to touch on today. Obviously, a pretty brutal loss by the Toronto Blue Jays. I'll start it off there, but we also have to talk about the reliever of the month's potential snub. We'll get into it in terms of Louis Varland. We got all-star voting coming up, so we'll talk about which of our Toronto Blue Jays, if any, we think could make the all-star team. And then a look ahead to the third and final game of this series, which, again, good luck for those of you that saw the TikTok short or reel that I posted yesterday. But Carter, I think this game really comes down to the first inning. If this first inning goes differently, obviously you get Nathan Lukes and Penango on base. Vladdy draws the walk. And then Jesus Sanchez grounds into a double play. And that's sort of that. I think if that situation goes differently for this Toronto Blue Jays team, like we talked about yesterday on yesterday's episode, in terms of momentum, maybe this game goes differently. I don't think Grant Holmes was pitching absolutely the lights out. There were a lot of meatball pitches that probably could have been taken advantage of. A lot of the times the Toronto Blue Jays were swinging at balls they probably shouldn't, where he would throw a slider, and then he would throw a slider, and then he would throw a slider, and then the Blue Jays would be out on three pitches. Or they would hit the third pitch, and they'd get out on that. It's just, this is a very, very 2026 Toronto Blue Jays loss where the timely hitting wasn't there. The approach at the plate wasn't there. The pitching, I mean, at some point, it's like these guys are going to come back down to reality because these aren't all-star pitchers. We had Patrick Corbin on the mound against the best team in baseball, and it doesn't go well. Is anybody shocked? I'm not. This is what this team has been all season, Carter.
Well, and let's be honest, from a Patrick Corbin standpoint, if he gives you 5 innings, 4 earned runs against one of the best teams in baseball,
yeah,
I don't think we can complain too much about that. You knew you were going to have to score runs against an Atlanta Braves team that right now is just better than the Toronto Blue Jays in every facet of it. Their bullpen is phenomenal. Their starting pitching, some of it's injury-wise, but starting pitching in general, the Atlanta Braves have a very good starting pitching staff. And then the lineup, there's a lot of guys that can do damage throughout that lineup. A lot of guys that have those clutch at-bats that come through when they need to, which the Toronto Blue Jays time and time again seemingly cannot do that, especially on a consistent basis. You had 2 home runs in this game. Nathan Lukes, the first one of the year. That was a very cool swing to see. Nathan Lukes, probably the best hitter on the Toronto Blue Jays right now. Post-vertigo Nathan Lukes has been a different demon, but shout out to him, but that's a solo shot. You have a Brandon Valenzuela home run, which again was pretty cool to see absolutely launch that baseball, but in a 7-2 ball game in the 9th inning, the solo shot isn't really going to do a whole lot for you. I can't complain too much about the extra base hits because we've been asking for them, and it is nice that you had 2 home runs in the game, even though that both of them, I guess, in hindsight, didn't really matter, especially the Brandon Valenzuela one when it happened. A lot of tough at-bats. Vladdy had a few ground balls that he hit extremely hard. Austin Riley is, as much as he's not very good right now offensively, that was a disgusting stab at third base. One of the best defensive plays I've seen up to this point, and kind of how it's been for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., even when he does get a good piece of the baseball. Unfortunately, just not finding the green grass out there. Frustrating game. Like you said, it's kind of summed up the Toronto Blue Jays season up to this point. You get a few hits, the top of the order, not very good, other than Nathan Lukes. You don't have George Springer there, so you can't use that one as an excuse. Pretty frustrating game, pretty frustrating loss. And as you said, Chris Sale looking ahead. And then what might be Chad Dallas. Nothing against Chad Dallas, but he's no Chris Sale. Tough sledding ahead for the Toronto Blue Jays. And kind of looking ahead at the schedule, me and you did that today as we were watching the Atlanta Braves kind of beat up on the Toronto Blue Jays. Adam Macko giving up his first runs in the major leagues. But yeah, it's not getting a whole lot easier for the Toronto Blue Jays, unfortunately.
No, it's not. And at some point, As we look ahead, I know we talked that the Phillies are coming up. You got the Orioles again. Like, all of these games are going to be tough. The Phillies have been absolutely unbelievable after what a terrible start to the season they had.
9-19 at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
They're 3 games above 500 because I think they won today as long as nothing crazy happened.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so just an insane outing, and insane to look ahead to what the Toronto Blue Jays are going to have to face coming up and how they're going to have to play. And how in the world do we expect what they are right now to get to a point where they're in contention for beating a team like the Braves or the Phillies or the Dodgers or...
Let's start in our division. Let's start with the Yankees, the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, even the Boston Red Sox that are going to be coming up. The Toronto Blue Jays usually get against the Red Sox with how consistent they've been, with the caliber of pitching that they've had available. You do have reinforcements coming in, a ton of them over the next month, which we will go into at some point in this episode. But you're kind of hearing the same story, is that these games do matter right now. You're going to go through a tough schedule. If you drop a million games and you go 5 games under 500, 6, 7, 8, and continue this kind of downfall that it has been over the last few games, again, nothing crazy yet, but if you don't nip it in the butt right now, this could spiral into something bad for the Jays coming up.
Well, and just like we talked about yesterday, and the fact that Chris Sale is going to be on the mound, I don't have much faith going into that game. And so you're talking about another game that you're dropping, right? And that's before you go into a 3-game set against the Orioles. It's not going to get easier. This team has to figure out a way to put it together. And we talked a ton about this yesterday, Carter. The fact that they need to have a team approach at the plate. It just doesn't happen. It is like everybody is going up there and they're deciding what they want to do in the moment. There is zero thought, zero game plan, and I just don't understand. When you see Grant Holmes throw back-to-back-to-back sliders all out of the zone and you decide to swing at the third one, why? Why not make him throw the extra pitch? Why not make him throw the extra 2-3 pitches that he was going to have to? I don't understand. It has to be a mindset shift. It has to be a mindset shift. It has to be a skill shift from guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George. They sat George Springer this game. It's a good call. But it didn't look much different. Yes, having Nathan Lucas and Yohendrick Panengo in the top of that lineup looks good because those two guys have been finding ways to get on base. But when you have Vladdy in the 3-hole, who, don't get me wrong, I think he had some hard hit balls today, but still not doing any damage, that's just a recipe for failure, Carter. It really is.
I think you hit it pretty well on the head when you brought up the Jesus Sanchez at bat, which was, for me, the toughest point of this game. Guy gets 3 sliders. They're pretty much right down the middle. It's the exact same pitch printed back to back to back. And you foul off the first 2 and you're only able to hit a ground ball in a big spot. The Toronto Blue Jays could have taken huge advantage right there. Grant Holmes definitely not settled in. That Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at bat didn't really even throw him a strike. Was kind of had the same approach, throwing him low and away. I guess worked to Vladdy's favor. You have the bases loaded. You're in the meat of your order early in the game. And you're only able to muster 1 run. Ernie Clement right after, again, not a very good at-bat either. Ernie Clement is known to be aggressive, and that is what makes Ernie Clement good at baseball. He hits home runs and balls that are at his head. He golfs at pitches. I'm a little bit more okay with Ernie Clement doing that rather than a guy like Jesus Sanchez, even though he has been good. And he swung at good pitches. I mean, they're in the zone. But it's just simply you got to do damage when they give you pitches like that. If it was on the Atlanta Braves side, if it was Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, it doesn't really matter who it is throughout this lineup. Mauricio Dubon hit a 3-run home run, who he has been pretty solid this year, so no disrespect to him because he kind of blew the game open against the Toronto Blue Jays. So then you have a 3-run home run. A lot of the times for this offense, that seems almost insurmountable. It seems like the game is pretty far away, even though the Toronto Blue Jays getting hits again throughout this game. You get the 2 extra base hits, but other than that, a ton of singles, not a lot from your 2, 3, 4 hitters. Actually, nothing really from your 2, 3, 4 hitters. Feels like we're doing copy and paste on a lot of these games early on in the season. Some of that's injuries. Some of that is the mental mistakes. Again, it didn't end up mattering too much with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Brendan Valenzuela. You got a infield pop-up, a ball that the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025 get to. If you want to be a playoff team, if you want to have the same aspirations as you did in 2025, those are the plays that you have to be making, and they're unable to come up with it. Austin Riley does get a base hit, doesn't end up mattering, as I said, but it's those little moments that add up. It's the at-bats. It's the chasing those pitches that are borderline. It's the ones that aren't even borderline that they're chasing. It's swinging at the first pitch in the count when it's not a good pitch. It's not a pitch that you've been sitting on and you were ready for. Little things start to add up, and little things have been adding up for the Toronto Blue Jays all season long. And you are playing the Atlanta Braves. I understand that they are one of the best teams in baseball. Record-wise, they are the best team in baseball. Didn't expect this to be a series win, but not a lot of positives, unfortunately, come out of the second game.
No, and I think that's the worst feeling, right? I think at least out of that first game, you could say, hey, you were in the conversation with the Atlanta Braves. But then we talked about yesterday, how does this team respond? Do they use that and say, hey, we were right there with them. We can battle this team. We can find a way to gritty out some wins? The answer is no. No, they can't. We saw the best of what the Blue Jays are going to give the Atlanta Braves in game one, and it just is going to continue to go downhill. This game was worse than the last one, and I have a pretty darn good feeling that game three is going to be worse than this one. So, or in terms of the offense anyway. I mean, we'll have to see what the starting pitching brings, but that doesn't look great either. So, Carter, my man, we could sit here and rehash a million things over and over and over again, but we do have a lot of other stuff to get to, and I think it's probably stuff that's a little bit at least more on the minds of Blue Jays fans who probably want to erase this one. But what
I
else
got one more thing, just for the people. This makes a lot of sense. I found this stat the other day. It probably hasn't changed much over the last 2 days, so I'm going to rifle it off like nothing has happened. But the Toronto Blue Jays have about a 1.5 run average in the first 4 innings of baseball games this year. That is the worst in the American League. Does that surprise you whatsoever? I mean, didn't surprise me. You saw it again in the first inning here, bases loaded. You can't ask for much more. Literally a gift wrapped for you by Grant Holmes, and you score 1 run because a lot of Braves are more than happy, especially with their offense, to trade you 1 run for 2 outs in that situation. Very unfortunate, very tough to watch. Again, it's starting to drain you a little bit. Even though it's like the Toronto Blue Jays before this stretch, they weren't really losing series. You had those series, like that series sweep to the Tampa Bay Rays. You had the series loss to the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, that's just another Tuesday for the Toronto Blue Jays losing to the Tampa Bay Rays. But this one, as you said, the first game, you felt like you were in it. You had a very good chance to win that ball game. This one, throughout the entirety of the thing, maybe, I guess, the Nathan Lucas home run, you thought the Toronto Blue Jays had a chance. But as soon as Mauricio Dubon hit that home run, makes it 4-2, didn't feel like the game was within the Toronto Blue Jays' grasps.
No, a whole lot more to come. We're going to talk about Louis Varland. Did he get snubbed from reliever of the month? Plus, All-Star voting is out. Do we believe there are any Toronto Blue Jays on this team worthy of an All-Star game? Also, a bunch of injury updates, and we'll tee up Game 3 for everybody as we continue on today's show.
Today's episode is sponsored by Indeed. There's workplace chaos, the deadlines are stacking up, the inbox is overflowing, and that one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. They have the right skills, the right experience, they're at the right location, so you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing those candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. There's less time involved, there's less stress, and you do get more results. When you need the right person to cut through that work chaos, this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
So, Carter, a lot more to get into. I didn't bring this up in sort of the tee up for segment 2. The Toronto Blue Jays do make a massive trade, a huge trade. They bring back Simeon Woods Richardson. The guy is absolutely cheeks. It's the best way to put that. He stinks. They gave cash considerations, which I found out today that on average is about $200,000. Nothing burger. This, I don't care. I don't know. Do you want Simeon Woods Richardson going to start a game for your ball team? Like, honestly, do you?
I mean, who are the other options? You had Austin Both pitch for this team. Like Connor Siebold, I think, is better than Simeon Woods Richardson. it's tough. Like, we've seen the Toronto Blue Jays face Simeon Woods Richardson, and pretty much every single time that has happened, the Blue Jays have beaten up on him. So now he is joining forces. Go a little bit of a full circle moment. He got traded in the Jose Berrios trade. Now he rejoins Jose Berrios, or I guess joins him for the first time, but rejoins the Toronto Blue Jays once again. It's not going well for him this season. I don't even really want to go over the stats. Like, it's really not good whatsoever. Like a 4.91 Ks per nine. So that's pretty good there. 4.72 walks per nine. The ERA is 7.74. The WAR is negative 0.4. Oh, let's go into the John Schneider quote. I don't really got much else to say on this. Bob said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. I could go on about the negative things, unfortunately, about Simeon Woods Richardson, with all due respect, but not one of my favorite moves by the Toronto Blue Jays. But that just goes to show how desperately the Toronto Blue Jays need some pitching help right now. But this John Schneider on Simeon Woods Richardson, newest acquisition of the Toronto Blue Jays. He has been a pretty good, stable guy in Minnesota's rotation for a couple of years. So I think that having some confidence and hopefully maybe tweaking a few things here and there can get him back on track. If you get 2025 Simeon Woods Richardson with the current standing, if it's about a 4 ERA, a 4.2 ERA, I think that's a huge win for the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't expect this to be a long-term fix. I barely expect it to be a short-term fix. He will not be available for this kind of bullpen day the Toronto Blue Jays are planning right now. He might be available for the Orioles series. I don't know if I want to see him pitch in that Orioles series, but hopefully that we're wrong. Hopefully everything we've seen with our eyes about Simeon Woods Richardson, maybe he's fooled us. Maybe he was putting on a facade because he wanted to come back to the Toronto Blue Jays so bad.
Yeah, I get John has to say this. I understand that. I get from a media perspective, he's not going to go out there and say, oh, yeah, nice, I guess.
Yeah, we're screwed, so we have to throw Simeon Woods Richardson in a game coming up.
Yeah, but I think we all know what the sentiment is here. So, again, I'll throw that out there. There's not, again, I'm not going to sit here and focus on what is a nothing burger. Let's talk about something that's a little bit more important, and that is our unbelievably good closing pitcher, reliever, closing pitcher by committee, whatever you want to call him, a fire extinguisher, Louis Varland, did not win reliever of the month. And I saw that there were a lot of people freaking out on this. And don't get me wrong, I want Louis Varland to win every single award of all time. But Carter, I know you went into some statistics on the two guys. And it's Cade Smith, by the way, for those of you that didn't know that, who won it. The guy had 13 saves. That right there tells you a lot. ERA tells you a whole ton too, but 13 saves is a big number. And Carter, I know there's more statistics that do lean towards Cade Smith winning this award.
I've been flip-flopping on this for the last day or so. I mean, pretty much the last day. I guess it came out the day before that you guys are listening to this. But I've been on both sides of it. I'm just going to read out the stats, and then I'll go into my final confirmation, what I truly feel about this, trying to have all the bias aside. So Louis Varland in the month of May, 15 innings pitched, 4 for 4 in save opportunities. A 0 ERA, did not allow a run. Louis Varland hasn't allowed a run for a very long time at this point, knock on wood. Hopefully we aren't jinxing anything on this podcast. But 11 hits, 16 strikeouts, 5 walks, an opponent average of 200. Cade Smith, the May reliever of the month in terms of the American League. 13.2 innings, 13 saves. Pretty incredible right there. 1.32 ERA, 2 earned runs, 9 hits, 25 strikeouts, 1 walk. Again, that is pretty insane numbers there. An opponent average of 188. If you're looking at the stats in terms of the swing and miss, you're looking at some of the chase rates, things like that. It is pointed to Cade Smith. And that's why initially I was on the side of this makes sense for Cade Smith to win this award. However, what is the job of a relief pitcher? What is the ultimate goal for a closing pitcher? Any pitcher that goes out there. It's to get you a 0. It's to get you a 0. It's win a game or whatever, but it's to get you a 0. It's to do a job for that one inning. You're trying to get 3 up, 3 down. What has Louis Varland done in the month of May? He hasn't allowed a single earned run to score. He's allowed some runs. That's not his fault. The Toronto Blue Jays defense has been all over the place this year, so we're not going to factor that in. Who cares if you have a million strikeouts? Jeff Hoffman strikes out the house. He strikes out everybody. He's not a very good relief pitcher right now. So Cade Smith has been phenomenal, has been getting a ton of swing miss, the strikeouts, all that, but he has allowed a few runs. At the end of the day, you can make the argument that in the save situations, he has come through, and do you want to win a baseball game as a closer? Absolutely, but the ultimate goal of a relief pitcher is to go out there and put up a 0, and Louis Varland did that throughout the entire month of May, and that's why I'm sticking the hometown. I'm sticking with my boy. Louis Varland absolutely got snubbed for this award.
I disagree. I don't think it was a snubbing. I think that this was a take your pick outing. I think that, yes, he has a 0 ERA. I think that is absolutely insane. I could have seen Louis Varland win this award.
How do you be better than that?
Genuinely,
how do you be better than that?
You have 13 saves and win 9 more games
he
for
gave
your
up
team
runs.
than Louis Varland did. I think the goal of a closer is not just to put up a 0, but it's to win a ball game. You allow 1 against whatever. If he had 2 blown saves or 3 blown saves in there, then okay. Then that points to me saying that, hey, he lost his team that game. But right now, 13 saves. I'm sort of indifferent on this. Yes, I would have loved to see Louis Varland win. I think he probably could have and deserved to as well. But I think Cade Smith had a very, very good month. So I'm not overly, bashing my head against the wall calling this out. I think that this was fair. I think that if Louis Varland won it, I think it would have been fair and there would have been a good argument for him to win it. So I know that's sort of a cheeky answer, but I'll say I think this was deserved. But yeah, if Louis Varland won it, I think that would have been deserved as well. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily one guy is mountains above better than the other guy for this month.
And you can't be overly mad about it, but Louis Varland has not been being talked about as much as he possibly, or as much as he should be.
Agreed.
And this is just another opportunity where he could have got some exposure, could have got some media exposure. Doesn't really matter. The guys in the clubhouse know that Louis Varland's an absolute dog. But in theory, again, who cares if you're allowing hits? Who cares if you're allowing base runners? If you don't allow them to score, for me, that's the goal of a relief pitcher. So I would have Louis Varland. Cade Smith had an unbelievable month. Don't want to take anything away from that. Every time that guy went out on the mound, he was phenomenal for the Cleveland Guardians. So, yeah, you're kind of splitting hairs a little bit, but if we had to put a definitive answer, I'm definitely going Louis Varland on this one. But there was a couple intriguing injury updates by the Toronto Blue Jays.
You know what? Hold on, Carter, one sec. I think let's save that for the third. I want to get this in here right now just to allow the people to do it. We'll come back because I think the injury updates are more important than what we're about to talk to right now. But you guys can go and check out the 2026 All-Star Game voting. It is open and it is live. So if some of you guys, I know you guys like to put out your votes out there. I did mine today. Carter, I know you did yours as well. You had a couple chats about it. I want to know, in your eyes right now, how many Toronto Blue Jays are All-Stars this season so far?
I guess it makes sense that we're doing this now because we just talked about the only All-Star on the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's Louis Varland. The only other argument that I could possibly see is Ernie Clement at second base. He has been good offensively. For me, much to be desired defensively. A lot of that is because we know how good Ernie Clement can be. And if you're looking around Major League Baseball, at least on the American League side, Travis Bazzana, that's a guy that has been phenomenal. Has he played enough games to get the All-Star bid? Looking around, Cedar Rafaela, there's a few guys that maybe are in the running, but I think Ernie Clement could be another option there. But I think the only surefire is definitely Louis Varland. And then I'd throw a flyer on Tyler Rogers. Maybe he's an alternate. Maybe he gets in there at some point. But I'll throw it just to Louis Varland with a possibility of Ernie Clement and Tyler Rogers.
Yeah, so my ballot had Louis Varland and it had Ernie Clement. So they were the only two guys. They were the only two guys I considered. And I threw around the Ernie Clement one a little bit. That I'll put to bias if you want to. That's fine. I'm not. If I think my guys somewhat deserve it, I'm going to give it to them. In my votes, I'm not going to go out there and just give it to somebody else. Oh, they're slightly better, but these are my boys. So, of course, I'm going to vote for them. Anybody else, if you have a vote, Vladdy is going to get votes just based on name value. Will it be enough votes? I honestly hope not. For the way that he's been playing this season, I don't think it's deserved. So we'll have to wait and see. I'll be excited when all of these votes come out and we get to see if any of the Toronto Blue Jays get it, or if Louis Varland does not get an All-Star game, Carter, I don't know what I'm going to do, because if anybody deserves it, it is that guy for what he has been able to do, not only last season, but this entire start of this season.
I don't know if you've seen the stat going around, the ERA plus for Louis Varland. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I believe it's 1,512 is the ERA plus. The league average is 100. He is 15 times better right now than the average relief pitcher. It's because he just hasn't allowed runs. This has been one of the better runs for a relief pitcher in MLB history. It's been unbelievable from Louis Varland. So that would be the ultimate snub. We talked about a possible snub for May reliever of the month. This guy doesn't get an all-star bid. We might have to, if you know ball, you know ball. Going back to, I guess, some hockey here. Vancouver Canucks 2011 riot if Louis Varland is not in the all-star game. Not a lot of things are going well for the Toronto Blue Jays. We need this one. We need Louis Varland in the all-star game at minimum.
Give us something. We'll come back. We got a few injury updates to get into, some important ones as well, especially if you're a fan of one team in particular, I will say. And then, of course, we'll tee up game 3, or we might not. We might just say Chris Sale's pitching. Good luck. That's what it might be. So, but we'll come back right after all that. Today's episode brought to you by Kalshi. Baseball season is here, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. Like I said, on Kalshi, you can trade every single game. I went and took a look at the odds for the Toronto Blue Jays. If you put down $100, it gives you a 38% chance right now at 252.21 would be the max payout. So you guys can go and check out Kalshi just like I did there. See what you want to put down, see what the payout is. You can see it all up front, and that's a great part of Kalshi. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in live markets, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, you can download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. There's no house. It's fantastic. You know, as you go to the casino or wherever, the house always wins. Well, they can't on Kalshi because there is no house. Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk. May not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Just before we touch on everything, including the injury updates, I wanted to bring up the Everydayer Club, where you guys can check it out for $5 a month. You can get ad-free audio, exclusive access to the Discord, and the merch shops. And if you want to cancel it, you can cancel it anytime. So why not try it, see if you like it. Carter, let's jump right into things. Some injury updates and some very interesting 3-game set that some of the Toronto Blue Jays will be pitching for.
Yeah, if you're a Buffalo Bisons fan, you're going to be in for a treat later on this week. But we're going to start with Yimi Garcia, who did have a rehab start. Mostly fastball, curveball in this one. Really just starting to get the feel for things. Again, I think Brayden called it. It's spring training for Yimi Garcia. He hasn't pitched in a long time. This is pretty much what he's going through right now. But the fastball sat at 94. Not the most ideal for Yimi Garcia. Again, it's early on. In spring training, you got to let the fastball eat. You got to let it, ease into it a little bit. You don't want to throw 99 right away, throw the arm out, possibly have a setback or something crazy like that. Knock on wood. We need Yimi Garcia back. Another high leverage arm. If that is what Yimi Garcia does offer the Toronto Blue Jays, would definitely be beneficial. Then Alejandro Kirk making a rehab start. I don't know if you guys heard the home run, because that was a loud swing by Alejandro Kirk, but a little bit of an opposite field home run in his first rehab game back. Pretty incredible stuff. I mean, just put him in the lineup. Like, I don't even care. I've seen enough. Get Alejandro Kirk back in the lineup, but he is supposed to catch on Thursday. We'll get an off day Friday. Realistically, probably still 10 days to 2 weeks away, so 10 to 14 days away. Not exactly ideal, especially when you see the thump early on. It is AAA, but very encouraging signs from Alejandro Kirk and Yimi Garcia.
Yeah, I need them both, right? I think that you can never have enough arms, and I think getting Yimi Garcia back into this bullpen is I don't want to say a need, but it is, right? You don't want to have to rely on guys like, and I hate to say this because he's been all right, is Adam Macko, Yariel Rodriguez, all of these guys. You want to be able to have more guys that you can trust every single day. Jeff Hoffman you can throw in there at this point. You want guys that you can trust every single day, and it can't just be the Tyler Rogers, Mason Fluharty, Brayden Fisher, Louis Varland story every single night. So you needed getting Yimi Garcia back is big. Alejandro Kirk is the biggest injury this team has suffered. You can talk to me all you want about pitching. I don't care. Captain Kirky is the captain for a reason, because not only does he take control of the diamond, catching-wise, his defensive ability, but his ability to come up in clutch moments. The thing that this team has been missing all season long, Alejandro Kirk brings some of that. So I really cannot wait to see that guy back on the diamond.
This is a way bigger conversation, but how in the world do the Toronto Blue Jays, with the way that Brandon Valenzuela is swinging it, and for the need the Toronto Blue Jays have for offense, how in the world do you keep Tyler Heineman over Brandon Valenzuela right now? I get the team control. I get everything like that. Tyler Heineman gets picked up in a heartbeat, but for such a big need right now by the Toronto Blue Jays, it's a tough one for me to see, unless you're going to play Alejandro Kirk, which you probably will 75% of the time, so maybe it is only once every 4 days to see Tyler Heineman, but we'll leave that conversation for another day. If you're a Buffalo Bisons fan, you got a treat coming up, because you have 2 Cy Young winners and then one that almost won a Cy Young, who is the best pitcher on the Toronto Blue Jays when healthy. I mean, looking at this, Dylan Cease looking like he's going to pitch for the Buffalo Bisons, start for the Buffalo Bisons on Thursday. That is followed by Mad Max, who will start on the Friday, which is followed by Shane Beaver, who will start on the Saturday. So what a generational 3 days for Buffalo Bisons fans. you got to see some pretty good pitchers. Maybe not in their prime form, but you got to see them kind of work through some things and hopefully be the reinforcements the Toronto Blue Jays are looking for.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to purchase a subscription for those games because I am gonna want to watch those. It is gonna be super interesting, and hopefully some of those guys come back sooner rather than later because the Toronto Blue Jays desperately need the help. So yeah, some big injury updates, absolutely, Carter. But just think, we started this episode off in sort of a downward mood. We sort of had some fun throughout, and now I'm going to end it in a terrible mood. Chris Sale's on the mound tomorrow. This will be the last thing I have to say for this episode, Carter. Good luck, Toronto Blue Jays. There you go. Take it away.
There's not much to say about the matchup. We've kind of been previewing it since the start of the series, prefacing that the Toronto Blue Jays should probably try to win one of these games before the Chris Sale game. I mean, it's Chris Sale. He's one of the best left-handed pitchers in all of baseball at this point. And you look at the Toronto Blue Jays lineup, the guys that are actually hitting for the Toronto Blue Jays, Yohendrick Pinango, left-handed hitter, Jesus Sanchez, even though, again, the first inning was bad, whatever, but he's been one of the better hitters. He's a lefty. Daulton Varsho, who, I mean, that's debatable, but he's a lefty. I mean, Nathan Lucas, who in our opinions has been the best hitter for a substantial amount of time. He's a lefty. Not looking good. Ernie Clement better hit 3 home runs somehow if they want a chance to score in this ball game. But I'm going to end it with a little bit of a spin zone. I think that Louis Varland got snubbed in the month of May for the AL reliever of the month. Let's look into June right now. Kate Smith, 9 ERA. Louis Varland, 0 ERA, 0 walks, 0 hits, 0 opponent average, 0 everything because he hasn't made an appearance yet.
Woo!
But still, Louis Varland's got the upper hand right now. If you want a spin zone, look out for June AL reliever of the month.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for all of that, the shorts, the live streams. If there's anything crazy that happens, whatever, everything we post, the reels, the TikToks, the podcast, Monday to Friday, everything. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave us your thoughts, feelings, comments down below, and we'll talk to you then.